So Express carpet installation, 66 Beetle. We have our instructions from Wolfsburg West. You're going to need your 3M90 strength glue, a razor, maybe a screwdriver, and here's our kit laid out on the floor. I like Wolfsburg West. Their cuts are good, their alignment is good. This is the synthetic version carpet, which I like, and it always works well with the stock floor mat setup. You're not getting carpet throughout the whole cabin. And this is synthetic, great for a high-end driver or a show car if you want to. If you want to go a real high-end, you have a show car or something, you want to go with the German square weave, but the synthetic looks very nice as well. Very tough to tell to some people, and it's half the price. And what I like what Wolfsburg West does, they sew the mat to the front firewall piece, which is supposed to be done. So we're going to do that. You got your heater channel pieces here, and then we're going to do the back three pieces here. Quick video. Let's see if we can get it in the bag in a meaningful time. Also remember, you will need to cut for the e-brake. There's a little defining line here, right here. You're going to need to cut that rectangular piece out very carefully with the razor. That's where the e-brake goes in. You're going to want to put the e-brake boot down first before you put this mat over it. And then if you have an earlier Beetle, here's your heater outlet knob section for 64 and earlier. Cut that. And then here's the hole for your shifter. First piece to go in is the front firewall section, like you see here. The Wolfsburg West kit always wants this one to go in first. The other kits like TMI or SoFi, they'll always have you put the side pieces in first. So what you want to look out for are the bindings here. So if your side pieces here do not have the binding, that means that needs to go under, and this goes over. All right, so make sure you slit the rubber here for your brake rod down there, brake pedal rod that goes to the master cylinder. All you're going to want to do is get your glue, the 3M90, spray evenly along the carpet here, and spray it up along there. Look at the contours of the car and make sure you line everything up. Of course, the U-shaped section, like you see here, goes to right underneath the steering column. All right, let's do it. So I usually like to just set it up into place at first. This will grab and stay in place even before glue, like you see. So make sure your sewn line is even with this portion right up in here. It's nice and tight. Make sure you're nice and even around your steering column. Make sure your mat is placed correctly here. You should have a little bit of an overlap on the tunnel, like you see there. And then you're going to have this cutout section here because you have the footrest that goes on afterwards. But make sure this is just up and tight in there, in the corners, nice and even. And then all I do is just pull away a section, spray here, let it get nice and tacky, and massage into place. Okay, so the front firewall piece is glued on, easy peasy. And just one thing I want to point out is make sure, guys, that you vacuum everything first and make sure the surfaces are clean. If you want to use a little alcohol or something to kind of clean the surface so there's no, I guess, how would you say it? A failing of the glue to the surface. You want a nice clean surface for the glue to adhere, but this stuff is pretty hardy, I will say. And make sure you also have a respirator or a mask. This stuff can stink. Side pieces, similar situation to the front firewall. Basically set it all up, and you want to basically line it up first with your heater outlet grill that you see here. If you got an earlier Beetle, and you want your line to be straight from here, top, all the way down, nice and even, lined up to there. You will probably have some form of an air pocket behind here. You do not have to contour exactly to here. That's kind of a deep pocket there. So if you did push the carpet all the way into that corner, you're going to lose space over there, and it's not going to overlap too well. So again, spray on the surface, spray on this surface, get tacky, and massage into place. So now that I've glued the top portion, basically from the heater channel up, this is nice and in place. As you can see, there's a little bit of an air pocket right there, but no big deal. That keeps the line straight up top and keeps that line good over there. So now that we have that all glued, you can pull up the bottom part and do the same thing, spray it with glue, and then massage it into place and make sure you got this heater outlet is lined up good with the grill here. Okay, so both front pieces are in. Make sure your heater outlets are lined up. If you have a freshly painted car and you're gluing, try not to get any glue on the grills. You want that nice and clean looking if it's a freshly painted car, or any car really. I mean, just it should be a clean look. If you do get glue on this area, WD-40 is your trick to get it off while it's still tacky. So on to the next pieces will be the heater channel sections. Next step are the side heater channel pieces that you see here. You're going to need a rubber mallet, and I wrap a rubber mallet with a new cloth just to keep it clean and a little bit softer when you're hitting this lip down to hold the carpet underneath. And you're going to need this little bad boy to get under the lip and pry this up so you can slip the carpet in there. And make sure your carpet is, you got this front piece here that butts up against the A-pillar. Then you got this section here that goes to about there, and this carpet will wrap around and hide all of that around here. And this bigger section lays flat onto the floor. So you're going to want to glue under here and also on the floor to hold this into place. And that's what we do here. So basically I get it in this lip first, pry this up, get it all in this lip, tuck it in, then gently with the rubber mallet, boink, 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 all the way around. Just be careful, don't hit too hard because you could crack and chip the paint here. Sometimes I don't even hit it, I just use the rubber mallet and I press, just with my hand, press down, and usually that lip will close without cracking the paint. Alright, so here you go. I have it tucked in. I used my little blade here to tuck it all the way in. You do not want to see any of the frayed areas or the lace at all if it's sewn onto the material. Get that nice and tucked in all the way to there. This is where you would butt it. This sewn edge gets butt to the A-pillar. And on this side, you see it gets to here just under the B-pillar here section. So then get your mallet and tap this from front to back or back to front, whichever works for you. Tap it down gently just to hold this into place, and then glue this and this on the heat channel and roll it into place. You may have to get your razor to cut this section right here because there is a lip here on the edge of the seat frame rails here. So to get that to get tucked down in there, you might have to slit this. Okay, so the heater channel sections are on, like you see here, and you see here. Good time to also tell you, if you have tar board or insulation board that you're going to put down on your floorboards, probably would be the time to do that now, because you want this actually to be under the carpet, like you see here, just a little bit. This is our own kit that we sell. It's a 4-piece kit. It works for all Beetles. If you guys want a kit of sound insulation for your floorboards, link will be in the description below the video. Now we're going to get on to the center section where the rubber mat rolls over the hump and then onto the floor. Pretty easy to do this. Ideally, you're going to want to put the e-brake boot on right now. This has to go down first, the e-brake boot. For the sake of this video, we're not going to do that because we have to change the e-brake cable in this bad boy. So if you don't have that issue, put the boot on now, and then the mat's going to go over it. And so make your mat section cuts for the e-brake section and your shifter. And again, if you have 64 and earlier, here's your heat knob. You're going to have to cut that as well. I usually tend to cut inside the line just to give it a cleaner look. Once the knob is on and once the rubber is up against the knobs and the shafts, you really won't see a cut line. So you're pretty good there. You don't have to make it too pretty, but this section will go on first for the e-brake. Also keep in mind, you'll have your seat belt mounting hole here. Usually take those out and you just kind of feel around through the rubber where these pieces are, and then you would just make a little slit with your razor so you can put the bolt or your seat belt back on. Okay, so pretty self-explanatory. You just kind of drape it over. You get your squared section that you cut out for the e-brake here. Push it nice and tight. It's okay if it's up like this or a little bulging. That's totally fine. Now, ordinarily, you don't need to glue the mat down. They didn't really do it from the factory. But I tend to see, you know, when you're driving, especially for the front section that we're going to put in a little bit, the mat tends to shift, or your feet might get caught with the pedals and, you know, and shift the rubber. You know, again, this is aftermarket stuff, so it doesn't fit 100%. So I do tend to, you know, want to glue it somewhat. You don't have to go crazy with it, but just something, just keep it in place. But this is where we're at so far. So you can drape this over. Now, if you notice, this car probably had the floor pans changed at one point. It looks that way. And you see the slit in the rubber does not line up with the rails. So you're definitely going to want to trim this because you don't want the seat frame to actually come in contact with the rubber and get caught. So keep mindful of that. If you do want to glue to the tunnel, say, and onto the floor, what I tend to do is pull one half up to expose this part of the tunnel. I would spray here on the tunnel, spray this half section on the rubber, massage it down, and make sure you want to be nice and tight up on the top of the tunnel. You don't want any bulging here, so I tend to glue here and press down, massage out. So you make it nice and tight along down inside the tunnel here, on the sides of the tunnel. Tuck this all the way in, just like that, and glue that, glue it up here. So again, this is nice and tight. It's not, there's no air pocket here. Massage that down, top, down. Next step is the front section. Before you do that, put your footrest panel in if you got that one. If you don't have that, it probably won't work well with the Wolfsburg West kit and with the black rubber stock mat setup. TMI has a kit that doesn't, if you don't have a footrest, they have a kit that works without footrest. So something to keep in mind, but let's get the front section on. Well, before we get to the front section, I want to just show you how I glued everything down. I put our bolts back in for our seat belts just for the time being. I did trim the rubber here, so it's out of the way of the seat rail. Okay, so we have our front section in. Again, I just followed the holes that I cut, draped it right over, went over the shifter, and start massaging it and getting it into place and get your overlaps right. This side seems to work really well. It's nice and tight along the tunnel, and it's not too far over here. This side, on the other hand, I got it nice and tight here in the tunnel, but it stretches pretty far, you know, up against the heat channel. If you did want to trim that, you probably could. Just be careful. You want to make it look good. So again, world of aftermarket, guys. You got aftermarket floor pans, aftermarket mats, and sometimes they just don't line up. You're gonna want to get in here and massage and get the rubber behind the pedals and such. Make sure the pedals do not interfere with the rubber. And then again, if you did want to glue, I would say just pick up this side halfway, glue the tunnel, glue the rubber, massage it down, make sure it's nice and tacky, and massage it all the way down. You want to put it a little bit on the floor pan, you can do that as well. And then the same for the footrest, just pull it back, spray here, massage, and you're good to go. So now the back luggage area. This is usually a three-piece section, so we have a padding section here that we're going to put down first. This stuff is kind of thick, so in my past video I said to split this in half. It'll actually come in half. You don't need this thick amount. If you want to use it, that's fine, but I tend to think it's a little too thick for the carpet. You could also put the quick roof down that I have in a very old video I have on putting quick roof down in the rear luggage area, but we're going to use this stuff, and you probably are going to have to trim it because it tends to be a little long this way. These also tend to be a little long, so they overlap as such, but we wanted to keep it, give it a nice smooth look, so you might have to do some trimming. Okay, so the side pieces go in first, as usual. Do like a dry run, line it up. I make sure kind of the line is butted up against where the door panel would go. Come up in the corner. You got to have a little bit of a material here and then start massaging it down and go along the wheel hump. And you massage it again, glue both sides on the hump, on the material, let it get tacky, massage it. This area here, you see I'll have to trim this. It's just a little too much excess. You don't want this sticking up out of the carpet. And also if you have a little excess down at the bottom, you might want to trim that. But the very straight vertical section here is what butts up against the rear firewall. So just massage this into place, glue the other hump, and then the center section comes down and you glue that. Okay, so I put this one side in. As you can see, I did trim up here because you don't want it bulging up into the vertical section of the heat channel, because you want this carpet to cover this material and not have the padding sticking out. So I did trim that, massage this all down here on the hump. Okay, and then again, I did take it apart. You know, I split it in half. That's thick enough. Another half of that, I mean, that's really thick. I mean, it's a little overkill. But I got this pad kit, 3-piece kit from Wolfsburg West or CIP1.com. If you do a search for carpet pad, you'll see for the luggage area, you get this padding kit. So ideally, when you're gluing this down, you feel around where this hump is, that it's coming up into the outer section here, that you're going to want to trim out. Ideally, come in here with a black magic marker or something and just kind of mark this. Take the material off and then slice it up and get rid of it. Me, I'm a little rebellious. I glue it down and I cut it myself. You just don't want to cut into the headliner, you know. So okay, so the rear square section that goes in between the wheel humps, it usually is a little too wide. So I usually have to cut off a strip like this. And you see it's about 3 inches wide. I just do a straight edge here and just cut that off. It then fits nicely. So one thing to think about is if you're doing a headliner, and I've spoken about this before in my past videos, if you're doing a headliner and you cut this strip and you pull it in half, now you have 2 strip pads for your doorpost section if you're doing your headliner. So you could put that padding behind here. And also, when you pull the big section apart, you have another one over there. That could be used for your roof on your headliner padding. So up in here could be your padding. Okay, so here's the rear pad section, and you're just going to want to set it up into place. Dry run. And I pretty much put it up to the top of the ridge here. You know, glue it there. Nice and even, straight across, all the way across, right? Glue it straight down here, get it nice and tight in the corners. See, I took that 3 inches off and it works perfect. Both sides. It's nice over here. 65 and later Beetles will have this little tuck here. So you're going to want to slice off the material at this point because you need this section free for a carpet piece that attaches to the backrest of the back seat that hooks into this. So when the seat folds down, it looks like a nice uniform carpet flat panel. And then the section that you cut off from here, you can use then down here, the remainder. And just like usual, glue this side, glue here, get it tacky, massage into place, and good to go. And then once I glue it to the back panel here, then I just kind of lift it up. Spray the glue down in there and on the material and just glue it down. So you just keep it simple. Instead of gluing the whole thing all at once, you can get caught and, you know, and then it's all shifted and might not be even. So just take one step at a time. Again, this is going to be edited, so the way this is edited is not the time frame of what it's going to take to do this. It might take you a couple hours to do this whole job, so just be patient. Okay. Padding is in. All right, so now the last part, the wheel hump and the back square section carpet. Here's what we're going to do. So here's the Wolfsburg West 3-piece kit for the rear. And as you can see, for 65 and later, you have this ridge section. So the wheel hump piece that they give you gives you this cut edge here. So that's how you know where to line up. I usually put it just right here at the edge. So you line that up here. They have the swoop section here that is meant for this corner of the body, and you massage that out. And of course then the straight section here, I can zoom in here, straight section here, that's what goes towards the firewall, the rear. Now, huge material here, lots of stuff here. So to me, it's a little too much. So that's why I said, you know, with the padding, if you kept the two pieces together and then put this carpet on top, it's just so thick. It's a little too much. It's a little overkill. But so this is how you just basically set it all up. Follow the contours of the body. Here's your line that's going up against this section here where the door panel would go, down to the bottom. Now you do tend to get wrinkles on this part here sometimes, all depends. So it's good sometimes to use a heat gun or a hair dryer to heat this up and get it nice and soft. If you're on a hot sunny day, put this carpet kit outside in the sun and let it bake and let it get nice and pliable and soft, and it'll be able to contour really nice to the Beetle wheel hump here. So I tend to actually start down here and then work my way back, and that tends to get rid of most of the wrinkles that are down here. I used to start from this area and go forward, and then for some reason that always gave me wrinkles right here. So thankfully you do not really see this section here when the backrest is pressed up against all this. You don't see the wheel hump. You basically see in this section of the wheel hump. Okay, so that's one wheel hump done, and as you can see, there's no wrinkles down here, which have a tendency to do that when you start from this section and glue to this section. You tend to get wrinkles here. So I, trial and error over my years of doing this, I always start now down from here and work my way back. And then here's where it all comes into play. Gotta clean this up right here. But yeah, that's how it's supposed to look. And then this material here, you got a big flap here. Make sure you glue also the wall, the firewall here with the material, with the carpet here as well. So this glue's nice, and then just kind of slice this. You want a little bit of a lip coming in inside the firewall, but this is a little too much. So I'll cut this out. I might even trim a little bit down here. But do the other side, and then we'll get to the center square. Okay, so the rear carpet section, the square, basically the same thing you're going to do like you did with the padding, is just line it up there. I do tuck it in a little behind the firewall. Just make sure that's, I leave the lace out just a little bit just to show a nice line straight across. Make sure you're even straight across. Glue it on the vertical side first, then lift up the bottom, glue the bottom, and then you will have to cut again for this ridge here for the other carpet on the backrest to hook into this. So I have a video of showing how to glue the back carpet piece to the backrest of the back seat. I'll leave a link in the description below the video where you guys can check that out. I shot it as a YouTube short, but you'll be able to see how to do that section. So I'm just going to finish this off, and then we're all done. So there you have it. Carpet kit is installed. Back is done. Mats from Firewall. And that's how you do it. See ya.